After securing their place in the Champions League last 16, Liverpool are back in Premier League action this afternoon, looking to maintain that 6-point lead at the very top of the table. Arne makes 5 changes from the side that lined up in midweek over Lille. Cody Gakpo coming back in for last week's hero at Brentford, Darwin Núñez. He has to settle for a place on the bench this afternoon. Andy Robertson and Ibou Konaté also back in the Reds' defence today. Today's opponents are relegation-threatened Ipswich. They need to better Wolves' results against Arsenal this afternoon if they are to climb out of the Premier League bottom 3 by this evening. It is, of course, a 3 o'clock kickoff here at Anfield. Yeah, welcome along to Matchday Live today. Phil Thompson and Martin Kelly are alongside me. They're going to have their say very shortly after we have confirmed that Liverpool's starting 11 for you to face Ipswich today. Here is the side Arne Slot has chosen. As mentioned, the boss making 5 changes from the side that ran out here against Lille on Tuesday night. This is today's team in full in number order for you. Alisson Becker is in goal. Ibou Konaté coming back in for Jarell Quansah alongside Virgil van Dijk. It's Luis Diaz. Dominic Szoboszlai, Alexis McAllister is in for the injured Curtis Jones today. Mohamed Salah, Cody Gakpo and Andy Robertson in for Kostas Tsimikas at left back. Ryan Gravenberch, Trent Alexander-Arnold in for Connor Bradley. And on the bench for the Reds today, Kevin Kelleher, Wataru Endo, Darwin Núñez, Federico Chiesa, Harvey Elliott, Kostas Tsimikas. There's a place for Jayden Danns on the Liverpool bench today, alongside Jarell Quansah and Connor Bradley. It's a warm welcome to you two on a beautiful sunny day. We have to say it is still quite cold here at Anfield. Got to get that one in. It is freezing pitch side, but another big one. They're all big ones at the moment, aren't they, Tomo? But a chance to solidify that grip on the top. Yeah, it is.
It's starting to get that feel, isn't it? Because last week's game was absolutely huge. You got that feeling all the time, but last week was a massive 3 points. And we needed the 3 points after having those couple of draws. You just felt that we needed to beat Brentford, because otherwise, not just because of the points, the media, everybody had been all over it. They were looking tired, no legs, this, that and the other. It's starting to fall away, but it wasn't. The result was right, and now every game, particularly home games, it's so vital that we win our home games, and the rest should take care of itself. Well, let's have a look at how the top of the Premier League table stands at the moment going into this one. And Liverpool are, well, they have been since the start of November, Martin, of course, in that top spot. 50 points, 6 clear of Arsenal and Forest, of course, with that crucial game in hand as well, and with that goal difference, which is worth a point in itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not getting excited about this game today when we're here looking at Liverpool sit there 6 points top of the table with a game in hand, which we know is Everton. That's going to be a tough fixture, but up to now you see the games that Arsenal and Forest have got, the next one's coming up, and they play each other in 3 or 4 games time. So these games here at Liverpool, like Phil said, these are going to be the ones that you want to take advantage on, get the 3 points on the board. Speaking about today in Ipswich, you know, they got a right result taken to them last weekend and against City. I don't think they'll make the same start today, but it's up to Liverpool and how they go about the game, really, because we know that Ipswich will just, you know, either sit back, or how are they going to come out? They're going to be brave and get after Liverpool to try and quieten down the crowd. Not quite sure, but the lads in the dressing room now, the ones that have been there before in the title race, they'll be the ones speaking to the younger lads, the lads who it's their first season, and they'll be telling them how big a game this is today, especially with the game that the likes of, you know, Arsenal have got Wolves, which is a really tricky game away from home, Bournemouth, the game against Notts Forest, the unpredictability of Notts Forest. I think this game today is one of them that we can't take for granted.
Yeah, I think it's also the Chelsea Man City is a nice one for us. So we have to look after ourselves. We have to make sure this is huge games. we don't want to get frustrated, because we all are, because people will be turning up. It is just life that we think, oh, it's Ipswich, so we should be winning. So there's no atmosphere from the crowd. So the players have to generate that.
Yeah.
So in that dressing room, the leaders in that dressing room we need to take care of ourselves. We need to start quickly, not just with the ball, but without the ball. Make sure they can't get out. Put high pressure on them. So it's so much is in our hands, is to make this a high energy game.
It's nice to have a 3 o'clock kickoff. We've had a few of them already this season, way more than we had last season. But as Martin just mentioned, with Forest and Arsenal also playing at 3 o'clock, not often that happens, is it? And it adds a bit of a different dimension to it this weekend.
Yeah, it is. It's a different scenario than what we've had before. One of the big teams is normally kicked off early, something like that. Or we might be playing on a Sunday, somebody be playing. So for us, the 3 games, 3 o'clock kickoffs, obviously it's because after the Champions Leagues, which have been Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We know some teams have been in the Europa League, but but it's just so nice that we can all have a 3 o'clock kickoff. It's great. Everybody comes here. It's a lovely time of the day, and you want it to be a wonderful atmosphere. You want the fans to be up for it. But it doesn't always work that way in these sort of games.
Yeah, this is the 6th of this season. Liverpool only had 3 in the entirety of the whole of last season. It's quite a remarkable stat, that, isn't it? Just in terms of 2025 as a whole so far. We're still in January, of course, but feels like a little bit of momentum now with back-to-back wins. It's the first time since Christmas that's happened.
Yeah, definitely. I think after last weekend with Arsenal being 2-0 up, letting that slide, and us scoring the 2 goals in stoppage time, it has sort of had that shift that you expect this time when the league starts to open up. We've got 17 games left, I think, so it still is relatively early days in terms of just over halfway, but the game here, Darwin coming on, doing what he does best, getting himself opportunities, and the other players, Harvey Elliott, Chiesa came on for 5-10 minutes, created some really good chances. It's a shift that the Liverpool fans, like I said at the start, it's hard for us to not get excited about the games now going forward with watching results like this. I mean, we had 37 shots in this game, so to not create or score even more was down to, really good defending from Brentford, to be honest.
Yeah, I think when you
tell you something, Becky, I'm just looking here, and it is. It's a huge game. You want to win it because we are all excited about where we sit in the Premier League. And when we do look ahead, you can't take that away. The reaction of the players when you score a late goal. We haven't scored a late winner. Yes, we've scored a 90th goal, but it could have been a second one, a third one. Don't think we've scored too many last-minute winners in games. You've seen the togetherness, you've seen the bond, you've seen the camaraderie, whatever you want to call it, you've seen it from the players, how important that first one that Darwin got.
Harvey Elliott said after the game, we're not a team, we're a family. And I think that just sums up everything about this dressing room, doesn't it?
It was just wonderful. And as players, you look at that, you feel that coming from your teammates. And Darwin felt the love. Everybody, just that togetherness that came, and you see them all. Yeah, you go out, when you score a goal, everybody does that. But if you look at the face and you see the reaction, that is different than other games when you've scored a goal in normal sort of inside the 90 minutes. You score a last minute winner, that dressing room will have been absolute bouncing.
Yeah, I think everyone's thrilled for Darwin Núñez. He's on the bench this afternoon here against Ipswich, but you would imagine we'll see him at some point in the game, Martin, and he'll be itching to continue that momentum, really, because confidence is everything for every player, I suppose, but especially for strikers.
Yeah, especially for strikers. I mean, me and Tomo were defenders, but Darwin, watching him midweek, how hard he worked, and as long as he's still getting them games where he can keep his fitness ticking along, I think the consistency of creating the chances and getting his goals, that's all we're crying out for now with Darwin. But if you ask anyone in the dressing room when Darwin does play, the way that he starts that press off for the lads behind him, if you ask any defenders, if we was up against a player like Darwin, you get no rest on the ball with him. You know that he's breathing down your net, trying to win the ball back, trying to create. So he's very close for me to starting the games, and the options that Arne have got this season for players coming onto the pitch to change games in different positions. Left back, you look at Tsimikas and Robbo, both bring something different. The left side, Koji and Diaz, Núñez brings something different to Diaz up top, doesn't he? So the choices that Arne's got when games are maybe at a 0-0 on the edge of, us needing to get something, he's got them options.
Yeah, we speak about not just having players on the bench and bodies on the bench, but game changers on the bench. Even when you look today, obviously the likes of Harvey Elliott, Federico Chiesa as well, who's really started to impress, I think, and there could be a real gem in there, I think.
Well, his cameos, it's took Federico quite a while to get up to speed, but you've seen him when he's come on and he's had a few cameos, he's looking fitter. More than anything, he's looking quicker. And I think that does take your time. Remember, coming in from this left-hand side, the edge of the box, come past a couple of players, and you've got to be quick with your feet and getting his shot away. Keeper made a good save. But it's not just us. We know of our value. We look at our bench, but it's everybody else. Other clubs, Arsenal are talking about their lack of quality coming from the bench. Other clubs, even Manchester City, with their injuries, lack of the quality on the bench. We have. But it's what you do. Gerard Houllier always used to say, you're not just a substitute to come on and replace somebody. You're coming on fresh. You're expected to make an impact.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to do. And ours have. I was just reading the stat yesterday at how many times goal scorers in the last 6 games or 7 games, how many subs had scored goals or assisted in goals, which is what they should be doing.
A quick word on left-back as well. Andy Robertson starts this afternoon. Kostas Tsimikas had started the last 2. So was that expected from yourself?
Listen, it's a really big game today. I think Robbo's got the experience, and at home he's been there, done that before, so he's also a leader. I really enjoyed watching Tsimikas grow under Arne this season. I think he's been really expressive in a way where, like Tomo said, when he's come on, he's not just filled in a position. He's come on, he's on the free kicks. His set piece taking, he's one of the best with Trent now, probably in the league, to be honest. So he's definitely made that headache for Arne harder in terms of who starts out of the 2. There is certain games where I look at it and go, Robbo starts or Tsimikas. I think today, with the way that they're going to come out, and Robbo might be up against a wing back sort as such, it might just suit Robbo a little bit better. And to be fair, it's a real good dilemma to have, and we've got them all over the pitch at the minute.
And I think you two are ideally placed to speak about Ibou Konate as well, because how impressive has he been in recent weeks? Came back in for that United game after just the 1 training session, which shows how important he is to Arne Slot.
It's wonderful to be able to have Joe Gomez come in and did it ever so well. I still think there is time for Gerald Kwanzaa, but Ibou has made that place his, and I see there's a connection with him with the fans. His pace and his power is just so precious. As defenders, would like to think you have different attributes, but he has so much, because he is, and that was one of the things he lost out to a challenge from Solanke in the Spurs game. That was, I think, his first game back. But he is such a wonderful athlete that I think his best years are ahead of him as well.
Yeah, he was asked recently, Martin, whether he and Verge are the best centre-back pairing in Europe, and he said, yes, I think we are, which you love that confidence, but also it's hard to argue against it at the moment. Yeah,
definitely. You can see the confidence in his games as well now. It's growing from strength to strength each game he plays. I think the way that he questions and challenges himself, I've been really impressed with this season. He's spoken in interviews about one day wanting to be as good as Virgil, and things like he's trying to chase 4 goals this season. He's on 2 at the minute, so he's trying to get the attacking side of his game better. I think Arne mentioned about his sort of possession on the ball and playing, them balls through the lines as such, he could probably get a little bit better at. But like Tomo said, in the modern day game now, your number 1 attribute for when you're holding a high line has got to be able to defend 1v1s, be strong, win that ball back so we regain the possession in their half. He's amazing at that, and sort of the partnership that he's built up with Virgil over the start of the season. Jarell, yes, brilliant game for him against Lille in midweek. That'll do massive for his confidence with Joe out. A real good sort of 4 centre-halves that you can all call upon when you're in a title race like you are now with the Champions League. So,
I'm listening to what you're saying about he said he had the best defensive partnership in Europe. I'm surprised Ibu didn't say just in Europe. Why not the world?
Whole world, maybe even the universe, who knows, right? Let's hear from the boss now. Here's what Arne had to say to the media in his pre-match press conference ahead of facing Ipswich for the second time this season.
I think I've said this a few times recently that second half of the season is always more difficult than the first half because some teams strengthen themselves during the winter break. Some teams, of all the teams, not all of them, but many teams work with their manager for half a season, and that normally leads to that a team becomes better. And that's definitely the situation also for Ipswich, although they've made it really difficult for us already in the first game of the season. But I think it's fair to say that they've improved during the first half year, and that is also a compliment to Kieran McKenna, that he already made it really difficult for us in the first game. But I think the few games afterwards was more difficult for them. But then at a certain point they've become a very good team that makes it difficult for every team, except maybe their last game, which was an exception to the rule. And maybe that was because City was City again.
Ipswich was your first game in charge. I think back then there wasn't the expectation that you were going to win the Premier League. I think certainly outside the club there seems to be the expectation now that Liverpool are going to win the Premier League this season. So what difference do you see in your side now compared to that first game against Ipswich, if any at all?
No, not a lot, but the fact was that I only worked with 13 to 14 players for 1.5 weeks back then. So there's not been said about sometimes how difficult it is to come in the middle of a season and try to work with a new team with the schedule we are having. But to be fair, it maybe felt a bit the same for me because 12, 13, 14 players came in 1.5 weeks before the start of the season, and from that moment on we only played games. So it's normal, I think, that we've improved compared to that game. Although especially the second half performance was something that was quite similar to the performances I see currently.
A word that keeps getting repeated again and again in comments about your performances, particularly the one against Lille, was professional. Is that a word that you like to hear when people talk about your teams? Is that something that you'd like to judge yourself on?
It's better than that they call us amateurs. Yeah, I think you guys, not till now, it hasn't been asked yet, but the amount of question I get about Mo and how would you describe him, so it's every time you have to find a new word or say something new again, or try to come up with something new. That's a bit similar to what we are doing. So because we're doing so well, many people talk about us, and it's difficult to every time come up with something new. Now, it's been exciting, probably. It's been all kind of words has been used, and at the moment, if I listen to you, the word professional is there. I don't exactly know what that might mean then. Does this mean that we are controlling the game, or okay. Yeah,
doing everything very business-like? There are no errors anywhere.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if it's meant positive or negative. What I see is that we've got a lot of ball possession, that we dominate and control every single game. In every single game, we've got more chances than the other team. In every game, we deserve to win, or if we don't win, we would have deserved it. Except for one game, maybe, and I've said it many times. That was the Chelsea game, where maybe a draw would have been more fair. But in every other game we've played, I think we were the dominant team, not because we go into a low block and kick every ball forward, because of a certain style. And yeah, it's up to anyone how you would describe that style. Professional, yeah, okay.
It's a compliment.
That's a good thing then.
It is a good thing. I think what was funny for me that emerged out of the press conference is that Arne Slot's dad thinks he knows more about football than actual Arne Slot, which is quite amusing, Tommy.
Doesn't everybody's dad?
I think everyone's dad probably does, to be fair.
My dad used to sort of tell me, he said, son, you had a bad game, or you done this, you done that. No, he didn't really. That's my side. But no, but all dads have a little bit of input, don't they? Whether it's good or bad, you take it, it's what the value is. And you can understand, because at times we were all like that with the way Arne set up and it seems the way he played earlier on, the whole ground needed to get used to it because it was a lot slower. We went back to the goalkeeper more often than not to try and draw teams on, passed it a bit more, because we did the same way under Jürgen, but we've done this more slower to try and draw teams out so that they don't have a low team block. But for his dad to tell him that it was Jürgen's was better than you, Arne. Get your act together, lad.
Hopefully this will be a more entertaining one for Slot Senior this afternoon. But yeah, I just think in terms of Arne Slot in general, he is, as Tomo says, so much more, I guess, a mellow, chilled character. And I suppose it does take a little bit of time to get used to it after so long.
Yeah, I think it's quite refreshing to hear that his dad does pull him up on things that he's not happy with as well, because it shows that, you know, all of us go home and listen to our families when we get home, no matter what job you're in. So, yeah, it was nice to hear. I think getting used to him since he's come in, the amount of, like you said, the chillness he's had, that just, it does go through the dressing room when you feel that from Arne. And I'd love to be in the changing room at half-time when we've been 0-0 or we've had to come out, and he has changed the game and made those substitutions that have worked. But in terms of how he deals with the press, how he comes and approaches the game, I think it was the Brentford game when Darwin scored the goal. That was the most he celebrated from what I've seen. He was ecstatic on the side there. So I think hopefully we can see more of that now that we're cooking on gas as such, but it's good to see. From
a lot of the time, don't you? Your team plays and echoes the way your manager is. Yeah. You know, and Jürgen was like that. He was so invested into everything what they do, passionate and everything, heavy metal, heavy rock, whatever you want to call it. But Arne's team plays the way he is, more sort of in control of himself, and the players seem to sort of play that way and are sort of nice and controlled, and we've probably managed games better than what we did under Jürgen. No disrespect, because we loved everything what Jürgen brought us, but we're enjoying this, and it's why a compliment needs to be paid to the players, because it's been a bit of quite a bit of a change from what they were used to under Jürgen. So for them to transfer it now and to do what they do and being so successful, I think is a compliment to the players.
Hugely. Let's remind ourselves of the game that Arne Slot's dad was not too impressed with midweek, but this was the win over Lille on Tuesday. And listen, it might not have been a thriller, Martin, but I think it was a game that Liverpool were always in control of, and you always felt they had another gear that they could have gone to if they'd needed to.
Yeah, definitely. Lille came here that night and they said they were going to take the game to Liverpool. I think they did in many moments, and you know, the sending off was the big difference in terms of Liverpool regaining that foothold in the game. We switched off once and conceded a goal, but it was, I know the press said it and Arne didn't like it as such, the professional performance that we go on about. This was one of them, and the lads who came on, Elliott came on, and the way that we were trying to connect the front three with the midfield, he came on and started to do that. He had the game in the palm of his hands, thoroughly deserved his goal that evening, and he'll be, like he said, he's part of this team, and even last season he had to settle with coming on in games and changing it. He's done that again today. I think the next couple of games we'll probably see him play a little bit more, with it being PSV and Plymouth away. So I think the whole team that night, Jarrell and Conor Bradley, their partnership down the right hand side was really good to see, especially from someone who's come from through the academy, to see them playing in such a big game under the lights at Anfield in them Champions League games.
These were no mugs, by the way.
Not at all.
Lille, I think, is it 21 games unbeaten?
Yeah.
I think it was. You know, that is quite a bit. We decried some other leagues, the French league, but for you to go unbeaten in 21 games, you were sitting healthy in the Champions League, in that group. So you're thinking this is not a bad side. We did what we've done for a lot of games this season and found a way how to win games. It's just the likes of the Forest or the Man United game. We just didn't find our way. That's why the Brentford game was so big, so important. and that was nice again. We didn't exert ourselves too much. Other players, as Martin just said, Gerald and Connor getting game time was so important.
Okay, well, it was Lille on Tuesday. It's Ipswich here today, and as ever, we will bring you live audio commentary of every kick here at Anfield. A very sunny Anfield this afternoon. Steve Hunter's already in position on the gantry for us, and we can get a word from him now. Steve.
Thank you so much, Becky. Good afternoon, everybody. Anfield filling up nicely, of course, as we look from our commentary position on the 6th floor of the main stand. I can see the top tier in all its glory of the Anfield Road stand. It looks absolutely brilliant. Welcoming the Tractor Boys, Ipswich Town, of course, today to Anfield. We beat them on the opening day. Remember Luis Diaz that day being absolutely unplayable at times. It's just his finishing. But since then, of course, he's gone on to finish really well and score some important goals for us this season, hasn't he, the Colombian? Remember a few recent meetings with Ipswich. I remember quite an amusing game. It was a long night, actually. The League Cup, December 2002, which is the last time we played them at Anfield. It was the 4th round. It was 1-1, and then we won on penalties. But the rather amusing, or not so amusing, if you speak to our good friend Neil Mellor, is he won a penalty at the Kop end in that game. Gerard Houllier, I don't know if Tomo remembers this, Gerard told him he was on penalties, and El Hadj Diouf, being El Hadj Diouf, what does he do? Robs the ball off him and scores the pen. So there you go. That's it for you. Now a little quiz question maybe to finish for you as well. Involving Liverpool Ipswich at Anfield. Who was the last Liverpool player to score in front of the standing Kop? Jeremy Goss of Norwich was the last one to do it for Norwich when Norwich were party poopers. The answer is Julian Dix, penalty in a 1-0 win over Ipswich Town. So there you go. Aldo will be with us for this one. Becky, it's all yours.
You look genuinely surprised by some of those answers there. Did you know them?
Well, I didn't know the Julian Dix one.
There we go.
Because I thought Jeremy Goss, everybody knows that one.
He is bursting full of interesting facts, is Steve Hunter. A big thanks to you, Steve. It's time now for us to say goodbye to those of you watching us on social media right now. If you do want to carry on, though, enjoying this build-up here at Anfield today on LFC TV, you can find details of how you can become a subscriber online right now at liverpoolfc.com/watch. Still to come before kick-off on Matchday Live, we are going to bring you an interview with Trent Alexander-Arnold. That's on the way. As mentioned, live audio commentary too at 3 o'clock. John Aldridge is going to be alongside Steve on the gantry, and Tomo, Martin and myself are back at 5 o'clock for all the reaction to the game. That post-match show will also be available as a podcast. There you go, later on today. The full match replay is at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening on LFC TV. And do look out as well for the best behind-the-scenes footage. That will be on Inside Anfield when it lands on the club's Facebook and YouTube channels on Monday. Well, Liverpool have won their last 3 league games against Ipswich by an aggregate score of 13-0. The visitors, however, looking to build on a bit of recent away success, having won 2 of their last 5 Premier League games on the road. We'll focus on Kieran McKenna's side after this break. Back very shortly.